son Bilal, who says he's watching this live. That's about bringing youth in here and me going in there. But 2 years on from what we managed to achieve over 4 years was an agenda not only universal, it was owned by more than those platforms and mechanisms to encourage the momentum for the transition and to begin that engagement with the SDGs. So I would say that from the feedback that we've had so far, the high-level political forum, which is where all member states come into the General Assembly and they speak to what they're doing at the country level. We've had over 66 reviews so far. They are voluntary. It shows that momentum in countries has picked up. The United Nations system, UNDP, has been helping over 100 countries get together.
Good morning. My name is Mary Jean. I am reporting live at the UN headquarters in New York. Today was the day in which the 72nd General Assembly of the United Nations kicked off, where I was taking part at the SDG Media Zone. We first had Amina J. Mohammed, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, speak to those at the SDG Media Zone on the importance of partnerships, and specifically partnerships among women, girls, and the youth. The day has just concluded, and tomorrow is the second day where we will hear President J. Donald Trump take the stage and hear what he has to say concerning the United Nations and its way forward. The SDG Media Zone will continue, and I will be reporting for both One Young World and the Global Communique. We're here at the United Nations General Assembly in New York City, and we have the pleasure of being joined by Ms. Arantxa Gonzalez, who's Executive Director of the International Trade Center. As part of the One Young World Ambassador Program, I'd like to ask you a question that will be addressed during the One Young World Summit in Colombia, Bogota. The first question has to do with poverty alleviation and economic development. And how can we innovate our way out of poverty?
Well, we have to focus more strategically in the base of the pyramid. This base of the pyramid is made of small businesses, micro-entrepreneurs, youth everywhere, poor, refugees, displaced. We need to address more decisively the base of the pyramid because it offers not only opportunities for dignity, but also amazing economic opportunities that are untapped. So my message is base of the pyramid more decisively, using all the means we have at our disposal, from technology, which is a huge enabler today in our societies, in our economies, economic means, including credit, and better networks. And this is where I commend your efforts at creating this gigantic network of young leaders that are going to, I hope, you are all going to put your efforts into tapping into the success stories that remain at the base of our pyramid.
And how do we also get the young people involved and more interested in issues of aid for trade and just more engaged in issues of sustainable development?
Well, I think that the youth are more naturally interested by development. I think they more naturally see solidarity and the need to cooperate and collaborate. And I think what the message is, there is huge opportunities to discover the world through that, and to understand that your troubles, your problems, your aspirations, your desires are those shared by millions of other youth around the world. The message I would have for you is your contribution can help transform the world. So use your contribution and you would be helping transform our little world.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gonzalez.
My pleasure.
And it's very true. Young people are leading. I usually say it is a great time to be a young person because you see a lot of governments that are now opening up and trying to include young people. A lot of narrative that the future is now is already being spread. So, if you've already had that kind of energies, this is the right time to really break into those kind of spaces. However, it is also you know, they say sometimes when you climb higher, it also becomes more challenging. You know, you're breaking barriers, and you find that some of those barriers are, well, not some, they're centuries old, right? And those, it takes such a long time to break those down, and some people are still holding on to them so tightly that then.
Hello, we're here at the United Nations General Assembly, and I'm a One Young World ambassador, and we'll be reporting for One Young World and the Global Communique. We're joined here by Honourable Kinawenda, who is the youngest member of Parliament from Botswana, and so we're very glad that she's given us the opportunity to just ask a few questions for One Young World and the Global Communique. So our first question for Honourable Kinawenda is, how can youth be more engaged in their governments and be taken seriously in their countries in the decision-making process?
I think, first of all, I encourage young people to get to know the processes and systems that are in place to participate in policy making and governance in their countries. For example, know how you can best contribute to parliamentary debates or motions and private members' bills, or whatever process it might be in your own country. Understand what those are that are in place and really use them. Utilize, lobby your leaders across parties, and just really share more constructively what it is that you aim to achieve. I think once you understand that concept, then we can keep the youthful arrogance that young people are known for, and also keep just that passion and the drive that comes with being young and being hungry, because that, when you truly see someone with a yearning for development and for growth, you really also get the same kind of passion to assist them.
Okay, and if governments do not uphold human rights in the different countries, what can we do both as citizens and as the youth?
Well, you know, the citizens and especially the youth have some leverage. Young people have leverage of social media. They have leverage of new technologies and communication that they can use in order to put pressure on their governments. And the key is really to never stay silent when you see an injustice happening. Voice out your opinion, mobilize others, and see if you can deliver a private member's bill in that is in order of what it is that you want to achieve.
And our final question is really just more on you as the youngest member of parliament in your country, Botswana. Can you just share with us some of your experiences and your advice as well for those that are interested in going into government, going into parliament, being young leaders in their different countries?
I don't think we have enough time. There is a lot that has happened to me in this 1 year. I have been an MP for 1 year, and there has been a lot of growth. You need to be willing to listen to everyone, all the parties, whether you agree or disagree with them, because there are always lessons to be learned from all parties, and to really just reduce the distance between yourself as a leader and the people that you intend to work for. Because at the end of the day, you are not in parliament, or at least I'm not in parliament to represent myself. I would like to represent the voices of other people, of other young people, of other women. And the key is for them to feel like they can come to me. And I have really been trying in this past year to break down those barriers, the power gaps that exist between leaders and the public, in the hope that we can drive more agendas forward. And patience. Patience is very key. You go through a lot of challenges. Government is like a rat king. So many things take so long to be untangled. But sometimes a victory isn't just seeing that one tail go up before you raise another to untangle that rat king. So things take time, and we need to be patient for that. But also not too patient that we become complacent. there's a thin line that we have to work with, and I just want to encourage all the young leaders to take that time, find the right cause, and champion it with all the passion, because that is truly what we can give to this world.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
When you mean by HDC gender, we talk about SDGs, right? So for me personally, not only as the youth donor, but as a young woman or a young person, there is no two such things as SDGs and the world and SDGs and young people. Half of the world's population is young people. In the global south, in many countries, it is close to 80%. In countries like Somalia, it's like 81%. In India, they have 500 million young people. So there's no two things as SDGs and young people. It's one thing. It's like SDGs and young people, and how we best utilize this absolutely amazing resource we have to make the 2030 dream a reality. I think they are. And I think they are taking the lead. In my missions, in my work as the Youth Convoy, I meet hundreds and thousands of young people who are leading community initiatives in their villages, in their regions, in their countries, coming up with disruptive ideas. They're disrupting businesses, they're disrupting the health sector, education, economic sector, the entertainment sector, and they're bringing in new ideas, and they're definitely leading. And the question is, as I always say, can the rest of the world keep up with them? Young people are leading, but can we give them the necessary resources to amplify their action? Right? How do we link young people with other young people who are on the same course, who are innovating just like they are, bringing in solutions to the problems affecting their communities? How do we link them with each other? How do we recognize these young people and multiply the effects that they're having on their communities in a global scale? How do we showcase these best practices? I think this is the biggest challenge that we have today.
UK also didn't stop to fight for the right of education, and I'm so pleased now to join UNICEF in this, critical issue, and also to help the children who are living in emergencies and those who are uprooted, to give them voice around the world, not only in Syria.
You fought for other children to have an education in that refugee camp where you were. Why was it so important for you to fight for other children as well?
Actually, this is really good question, because I consider education is really important for me personally. So I consider it important for others as well. For example, my country doesn't need me alone. It needs a strong generation. It needs everyone to have education, and it needs solidarity from all of us. And we need educated generation to face the challenges in our life and also to rebuild our countries. So it needs all of us together, not only one person. That's what motivated me to fight for others.
How hard it was for you to leave your country and then end up in a refugee camp, and how important education was for you at that moment in your life.
Yeah, actually it was really hard to flee my home, because nobody in the world wants to flee the home where was born. But we had no choice. All the challenges were so difficult. So we had to flee, and we lived in refugee camps, and there were also challenges. But I didn't care about any of the challenges. My world was education. So when I found education in refugee camps, that moment changed my life, and I realized that by education I can be who I want to be, and education is the key which opens doors in front of us. So education is really the thing which makes us who we want to be, and education also the reason why I'm here today as well.
We're here at the United Nations General Assembly, and we have the pleasure of being joined by Munira Khalif, who is the U.S. Youth Observer to the UN. We're just going to have to ask you a couple of questions as part of the One Young World program and reporting for the Global Communique. So you're welcome, Munira. As the U.S. Youth Observer to the UN, can you please just explain to us your role?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be joining you guys. So as the U.S. Youth Observer to the United Nations, my role is to really make sure that the ideas, voices, and concerns of young Americans are being heard at high-level global policy discussions and events at the United Nations and outside of it. And so it's really about giving young people a seat at the table and an opportunity to lead as well.
Since you've had the opportunity to engage at these high-level events and meetings, do you think that the voices and opinions of youth actually matter at these high-level meetings?
I honestly, I know that they matter and they need to matter because we're living in a world that is increasingly becoming younger. We're actually the largest generation of young people to encompass the earth, and so our voices are actually needed because these issues are not only affecting our lives in the future but also affecting our lives today. And so one event that I found to be really great was the Young Leaders Times World Leaders event, and it was a high-level breakfast that brought together various leaders to really talk about ways in which we can increase youth engagement, but also how we can have meaningful youth engagement on the sustainable development goals and global issues at large.
And you are familiar with One Young World. Can you just also explain to us what your advice is to all the One Young World participants that will be attending the Colombia Summit this year?
So I just mentioned this on the stage that I just came off of about there's really, I think, an importance to being an imaginative leader. I think it's easy to look out in the world that we're existing in today and think, oh, you know, there are not a lot of young advocates or leaders that are being spotlighted or who are able to have their voices heard. But you within yourself must recognize that the world that we live in today actually was someone's wildest imagination a couple of years ago. And so it's really about having this foresight and this vision of what the world can be. And if you don't see a role that you want, create it. Be bold.
Thanks a lot, Munira, and we look forward to seeing you at one of the One Young World Summits in the coming future. Thanks.
Thank you.
I mean, it's not a small thing. It's not like we're saying, you know, oh, mentor girls, it'll be great. We're saying if you don't provide this mentorship, if you don't provide this role modeling, if you do not provide this space for people to engage comfortably and authentically, then they may not be there. And we're missing out, not monetarily, not in terms of health, not in terms of climate change and environmental sustainability. We're missing out on the SDGs. So it's an essential component.
We're here at the United Nations General Assembly in New York City, and my name is Mary Jean Leia, and I am a One Young World Ambassador. I'll be reporting for One Young World and the Global Communique. We're joined by Ankit Kawatra, who is a Queen's Young Leader, a UN Young Leader for the SDGs, and will also be attending the One Young World Summit in Bogota, Colombia. And so our first question is, how can the youth be more engaged and tackling the SDGs? You're the founder of Feeding India, and you've been given a lot of recognition on your work on Feeding India. Just give us a little bit more information on what you've been doing and the role of the youth in the SDGs.
Oh, sure. So thank you so much for having me here. I think as a UN Young Leader, one of the major tasks we have at hand is to spread awareness and make sure that each young individual knows about the Sustainable Development Goals and feels empowered enough to act upon it. I think the biggest thing any young one can do right now is take risks, because this is an age where you can take risks and have an opportunity to try new things. And I think that's something which young people are too afraid of sometimes, and they have a lot of ideas and a lot of the capacity to experiment, but they're just a bit hesitant towards risking things. I think that's one of the things which I really propagate and encourage people, especially the young people of today. We have such a big responsibility, being such a youth-sized population with more than 600 folks now throughout the world. I think we have an even bigger responsibility to come up with innovative solutions towards solving social problems and changing the world as we know it today.
Well, that's great. And how has your work been on Feeding India? How has that been as a young person tackling such a huge project such as feeding people and getting rid of hunger in your country?
Sure. So I think, when I was 22, I went to a wedding and I saw so much food wastage, and that just triggered me to start an organization. I was a management consultant otherwise, and I think it just broke the myth in me that a problem like hunger is usually deemed to be a problem which is too huge to solve. And I think that's what sort of I broke when I started Feeding India. I realized that we all have the potential to somehow, somewhere make an impact, a deeply rooted impact to solve these social problems as we know them. And I think the journey with Feeding India has been tremendous. Just 3 years back when I started out, I was going door to door to caterers, convincing them to donate their excess food, which was such a huge journey. because they never heard about food wastage. And today, Feeding India is the largest not-for-profit in India, solving hunger and food wastage, having served more than 9.5 million meals. So, I think I'm really proud of the effort that, of course, we've put in together, the entire Feeding India family's put in, and all the 7,500 volunteers who put in so much energy. But I feel so much more responsibility to do so much more now, and make sure that we end hunger for the 2030 agenda.
Well, that's good. And just your advice for any aspiring young person in whatever country to tackle a big issue in their country, what's your advice to them?
Oh, I think just one thing. You got to know one thing, which is this is the time. There's going to be no tomorrow. You got to do it now. If you have an idea and you really want to try it out, and you don't see something like that's out there, go ahead, try it out. Reach out to someone who might be able to help you, but don't wait. If you try today, you might be the next leader tomorrow. So go ahead. I think risk yourself. Take the risk, take the plunge, and go ahead and try and solve the problem.
And anything you'd like to say to any young person that will be attending the One Young World Summit in Bogota?
Oh yeah, keep it cool, keep calm, and we're gonna meet you there. All right, see you.
Today is the final day of the United Nations General Assembly, and we have just completed the SDG Media Zone with various speakers. We've had the opportunity to speak to a couple of them that had the time to talk to various media, and basically it's been a very interesting discussion here. Especially there's been a lot of talk on youth engagement, and so we're glad that there is at least that momentum growing on involving the youth, particularly on achieving the SDGs and the role that they play in achieving the SDGs. We have concluded our time here, and so we are now off, and so that was all that we've had from One Young World and the Global Communique. I am Mary Jean and Leia reporting live on the September 22nd right here in New York City at the United Nations headquarters at the United Nations General Assembly. Thank you.